When your own son asks you to kneel, you realize money can build walls taller than love. I still remember that morning as if it were carved into my bones. The air inside their mansion smelled of roses and money, cold, expensive, and heartless. I stood at the doorway, my wrinkled hands clutching the small gift I'd brought, a handmade sweater for my grandson. It was the same pattern I used to knit for my son when he was little. But when the maid opened the door, her expression changed the moment she saw me. "Madame doesn't like uninvited guests," she said sharply, almost as if I were a stranger begging for food. I smiled softly. "I'm not a guest," I whispered. "I'm his mother." Inside, laughter echoed. Expensive laughter, the kind that forgets its roots. My son, Adam, looked different now. A tailored suit, gold watch, slick hair, and eyes that didn't look at me the same way anymore. His wife, Olivia, sat on a white sofa, dressed like royalty, sipping her coffee as if I were invisible. "Mother," Adam said stiffly. "You should have called before coming." "I wanted to surprise you," I said, my voice trembling. "It's been months since I saw my grandson." Olivia placed her cup down with a soft clink. "Your mother's timing is inconvenient," she said, not even looking at me. "We're hosting a business dinner tonight. It would be better if she left." I felt my heart twist, but I forced a smile. "I'll only stay a moment, dear. I brought a sweater for little Noah." She glanced at it, then laughed. "You expect my son to wear that? We buy designer clothes, not handmade things." Adam looked away. The silence hurt more than any insult. I turned toward the stairs where I heard Noah's laughter. "Can I just see him for a minute?" Olivia's tone turned sharp. "No, he's napping." And then it happened. The words that broke me. Adam stood between me and the stairs. "Mother, apologize to Olivia. You embarrassed her." I blinked, not understanding. "Apologize? For what?" "For talking back. For coming here without asking. For acting like you still have a say in my life." My lips trembled. "Adam, I gave you everything I had. Every breath I own." Olivia crossed her legs, a faint smile playing on her lips. Maybe she needs to learn how to behave around people with class. I looked at her, young, beautiful, cruel. I looked at my son, silent, ashamed, but still standing behind her shadow. And then Adam whispered, "Mother, please. Just kneel. Say you're sorry." The world stopped moving. For a long moment I just stared at him. My knees felt weak, not from age, but from disbelief. The same knees that had once knelt on cold floors to wash his clothes. Now he wanted them bent in front of his wife. I slowly placed the sweater on the table. "Adam," I said softly, "you've forgotten what love looks like. You think it's measured in diamonds and dinner parties, but love doesn't live in your mansion anymore. It died the day you stopped calling me Mom." He looked away, his jaw tightening. Olivia laughed again, but her laughter sounded hollow, even to herself. I walked out of that golden prison without looking back. But as I stepped into the cold air, I whispered to myself, he will learn soon enough. Money buys silence, but not peace. And I knew. That was only the beginning of the storm. When I stepped out of that mansion, the air hit my face like a slap. The sky was dark, heavy with rain that seemed to wait for me to break first. I didn't have an umbrella, but maybe I didn't want one. Because sometimes, the rain hides tears better than anything else. I walked down that long marble driveway, holding the small sweater close to my chest. It was supposed to be a gift for my grandson. Soft, warm, filled with love. Now it felt like a piece of my heart that nobody wanted. I had never felt so small. Not when I buried my husband, Not when I worked double shifts just to feed my son. Not even when my hands shook from hunger while cooking his favorite soup. But today, my own son made me feel like I didn't belong in his world. The rain began to fall harder, and I could barely see the road. My old shoes slipped on the wet pavement, and I clutched a lamppost to keep myself from falling. People in expensive cars passed by, their wipers flashing, no one stopping. Just like inside that mansion. Everyone busy pretending not to see. When I reached the bus stop, I sat on the bench, soaked to the bone. A little boy nearby stared at me. His clothes were torn, but his eyes were kind. He pointed to the sweater in my hands. "That's pretty," he said softly. "Did you make it?" I nodded. "For my grandson," I whispered, "but he'll never wear it." The boy smiled. "Can I hold it?" I hesitated for a moment, then handed it to him. He pressed it to his cheek. "It's warm," he said. "Feels like love." My heart ached. "Do you have a grandma?" He shook his head. "No. She died before I was born." Something inside me cracked open. Without thinking, I said, "Then take it." His eyes widened. "Really?" I nodded. "Yes. Someone should wear it with love." He ran to his mother, clutching the sweater. I watched them disappear into the rain, and for the first time that day, I smiled. A sad, quiet smile. Because I realized something. My love didn't need a mansion to exist. It just needed someone willing to feel it. That night I returned to my tiny house. Old walls, flickering bulb, broken stove. But everything in it was real. I made tea, wrapped myself in a blanket, and sat by the window. Through the glass, the rain kept falling. Each drop whispered memories of my son. His little hands clinging to my sari when he was afraid. His laughter echoing through our small house. His promises. "Mama, when I grow up, I'll buy you a palace." And he did. But he never let me enter it. I looked at my reflection in the window. A tired face, lined with years of sacrifice, and whispered, "Maybe love is not about what we give, but who remembers it." My phone buzzed. A message from my neighbor, Mrs. Parker. "Your son was on TV again," she wrote. "They said he's opening a new company with his wife. You must be proud." I stared at the screen for a long time. Proud? No. I was hollow. Not because he was rich, but because somewhere along the way, he'd sold his soul to become that rich. I closed my eyes and whispered into the quiet room, "God, don't punish him for what he did to me. Just let him learn what true poverty feels like. The kind that lives inside a lonely heart." The candle beside me flickered, and deep down, I knew. Prayers of mothers are not always sweet. Sometimes they carry storms, and mine had just begun. It had been 3 months since that rainy day. 3 months since I left that mansion with an empty heart and a quiet prayer. I never went back. I didn't call. I didn't even try to see my grandson again. But every night I prayed for him. Not for riches, not for comfort, but for wisdom, and perhaps heaven listens more closely to the prayers of mothers who cry in silence. One evening, as I was peeling potatoes in my small kitchen, the news played softly on my old radio. Businessman Adam Sterling faces major losses after a sudden market collapse. My hand froze midair. The knife dropped into the bowl. They said his company, the one he built with Olivia, had lost millions overnight. Investors pulled out. Luxury cars, private parties, the mansion, all were in danger. I sat down, my chest tightening. It wasn't joy I felt. It was something heavier, like guilt mixed with fate. I hadn't wished this on him. I had only asked for understanding, and maybe this was how God teaches it. Meanwhile, in that marble house, cracks began to appear, not just on the walls, but in their marriage. Olivia's voice filled the halls, sharp and cold. "You promised me everything, Adam. How could you lose it all?" Adam ran a trembling hand through his hair. "The market crashed, Liv. I couldn't stop it." She laughed bitterly. "You could have, if you'd listened to me. Maybe your precious morals got in the way again." He looked at her, eyes filled with exhaustion. "You think this is about morals? We lost because of greed. Yours, mine, everyone's." "Don't you dare blame me," she snapped. "I gave up everything for this life," Adam whispered, "and I gave up my mother for it." The room fell silent. Olivia turned, her voice dripping with disdain. "Don't start that again." But he wasn't listening anymore. His mind was elsewhere, replaying that day, the look in my eyes, the sweater on the table. He poured himself a drink, his hands shaking. For the first time, the silence in that golden house scared him. Days turned into weeks. Creditors called. Friends stopped answering. Even Olivia began packing her things. One morning, Adam found her sitting by the mirror, diamond earrings in hand. "Where are you going?" he asked quietly. "To find someone who can give me back the life I deserve," she said coldly. He laughed, not the laugh of a man, but of someone whose soul just broke. "Then go," he said. "Take the diamonds, take the clothes. Just leave me your pride. I've lost everything else." She didn't even look back. When the door shut, the echo filled every corner of that mansion. For the first time, Adam realized how empty luxury feels when love is gone. That night, rain returned, just like the one from months ago. Adam sat in his grand living room, lights dim, whiskey in hand, the silence so loud it hurt. And then his eyes fell on something lying in the corner, the small hand-knitted sweater. He didn't remember leaving it there. Olivia must have tossed it aside that day. He picked it up slowly. The wool was soft, but it burned in his hands, a reminder of everything he'd destroyed. Tears, real bitter tears, filled his eyes. He pressed the sweater to his face and whispered, "Mom, I'm sorry." That same night, as I sat in my little home praying, I felt something warm flow through my heart, like a whisper carried by the wind. Maybe it was my son's soul finally bending, not his knees. And for the first time in months, I smiled through my tears. Because sometimes God doesn't need to break us with pain. He just shows us the truth we've been hiding from. The mansion still stood tall, but inside, everything had already fallen. Days passed, and Adam could no longer survive on regret alone. The mansion that once sparkled with lights now felt like a graveyard of broken dreams. He looked around the silent home. No servants, no laughter, no Olivia. Just him. And guilt. He remembered the day he asked me to kneel. That moment replayed in his mind like a curse. His heart begged for forgiveness. But his pride... Oh, pride is the strongest chain ever forged by ego. But finally, one morning, he gathered the strength to do the hardest thing a rich man can do. He stepped out into a world where no one cared about his name anymore. No fancy suit, no gold watch, just simple clothes and eyes swollen from sleepless nights. He stood in front of my small home, the same home he once said was too embarrassing for him to visit. His hand trembled as he lifted it to knock. Thud. Thud. But before I could open the door, neighbors noticed him. A few women whispered loudly, "Oh, look, isn't that the millionaire's son? What's he doing in this old neighborhood? He lost everything," I heard. Every word was a needle, and Adam felt each one, the sting of humiliation. The door opened slowly. I stood there holding a cup of tea, my expression calm but unreadable. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His throat closed up with emotion. Finally, he managed a whisper. "Mom." Just one word. But inside it lived thousands of apologies. I looked into his eyes, and in those eyes I saw the little boy who once begged me to tie his shoelaces. The little boy who cried when he scraped his knee. The little boy who held my hand and promised to never leave me behind. But that boy was buried under years of arrogance. I stepped aside gently. "Come inside," I said softly. He walked in, head lowered like a child returning after mischief. He saw the cracked walls, the old wooden furniture, the faded family photos. Suddenly he realized, this poor home had more love in its dust than his mansion ever had in its gold. I poured him tea, the same cheap tea he once hated. But today, he held the cup like it was a gift. For a long time we sat in silence. Then he finally spoke, his voice breaking. "Mom, I was wrong. I was blind. I let money turn me into someone I don't recognize. I hurt you. I betrayed you. Can you ever forgive me?" His tears fell, heavy, real cleansing tears. I didn't rush. I let him break, because sometimes broken pieces must fall before they can be mended. I gently touched his hand. "My child, I forgave you the moment you were born." He cried harder, the cry of a man who had finally found home. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. I took a deep breath and whispered, "Love doesn't kneel, Adam. Pride does." He nodded, ashamed. But then he said something I didn't expect. "I want to start over, Mom. But Olivia left. I don't know if I can raise Noah alone." I looked at him, confused. "Where's my grandson?" I asked. And his answer made my entire world stop. "He's missing." The moment Adam said those words, "He's missing," my heart nearly stopped beating. I gripped the edge of the table. "What do you mean, missing?" Adam's eyes were red, his voice trembling. "Olivia left after the company collapsed. She said she was taking Noah to her mother's house for a few days. But when I went to check, they were gone. Her phone switched off. No one knows where she is." I felt the room spin. My legs went weak, and I sank back into the chair. For a moment, all I could hear was the sound of the old wall clock ticking, painfully slow, like each second was cutting into my soul. "My grandson," I whispered, tears spilling down my face. "My little Noah." Adam reached for my hand. "I've searched everywhere, Mom. Hotels, airports, friends, nothing. I filed a report, but the police say she might have gone abroad." Abroad? That word cut deeper than any insult. How could a mother take her child and vanish like that? I stared at Adam, his face hollowed by regret. "You trusted a woman who never knew the meaning of love," I said quietly. "But don't worry. A mother's heart knows how to find her blood, no matter the distance." That night I couldn't sleep. Rain tapped softly on the window again. The same rain that had witnessed my humiliation, my forgiveness, and now, my fear. I knelt beside my bed, hands trembling, whispering prayers into the darkness. "God, you gave me strength to forgive. Now give me strength to find my grandson." The next morning I woke early and packed a small bag. Old people don't have much, but faith weighs heavy enough to move mountains. "Where are you going?" Adam asked, surprised. "To look for them," I said firmly. "If your money can't find her, maybe a mother's eyes can." He wanted to stop me, but I saw in his face that he was broken, ashamed to lead, too guilty to try. So I went alone. My search began in the city where Olivia's parents lived, a wealthy neighborhood filled with manicured gardens and cold smiles. When I knocked on the door, a servant answered. "Madam Olivia hasn't been here for weeks," he said curtly. But then as I turned to leave, a soft voice behind the gate whispered, "She came 2 days ago." It was the gardener, an old man who looked at me with kind eyes. "She's hiding in the beach house near Clearwater," he said quietly. "She came with a child. The boy cried for his father every night." Tears burned my eyes. I thanked him and took the first bus to Clearwater, a long, bumpy road through grey skies and old memories. When I reached the beach house, it was almost evening. The wind smelled of salt and loneliness. I saw Olivia through the window, her once flawless face now pale, her hair unkempt. She sat on the couch, phone in hand, arguing with someone. And then I saw him, little Noah, curled up on the floor, clutching a photo of his father. My heart broke all over again. I stepped forward, but before I could knock, Olivia opened the door. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You!" she hissed. "How did you find me?" "Because I'm a mother," I said softly. "And a mother never loses her child, even if the world hides him." She looked shaken but quickly regained her arrogance. "You can't take him. He's my son." "Your son?" I said, my voice rising for the first time. "You wanted luxury, not love. You used that child as your trophy." Her lips trembled, but pride still wrapped around her like armor. "Leave now," she said, voice trembling, "or I'll call the police." I didn't move. "Call them," I said calmly. "Let them see what kind of mother you've become. Running from your husband, hiding from truth." Her phone slipped from her hand. For a moment she looked utterly lost, like a child caught in her own lies. Then Noah saw me. "Grandma!" he cried, running into my arms, his tiny hands wrapped around my neck, his tears soaking my shoulder. That moment, the world disappeared. There was no mansion, no betrayal, no pain, only love, pure and real. Olivia sank to the floor, sobbing. "I didn't want to lose him," she whispered. "I just wanted peace." I looked at her, and for the first time I didn't see a villain. I saw a woman blinded by fear, crushed by greed, and lost in her own choices. "You can still make it right," I said gently. "Let Noah go home." She nodded weakly, defeated by truth. That night I took Noah back to the city. Adam was waiting outside, eyes filled with tears. When he saw his son, he fell to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Noah ran into his arms. "Daddy!" And for the first time, the mansion of sorrow inside Adam's heart began to crumble. That night felt like a dream. The moment I stepped into my little house with Noah's small hand clutching mine, I felt whole again. Adam knelt before me, tears streaking his tired face. "Mom, I don't deserve your forgiveness." I brushed his hair gently like I used to when he was little. "Forgiveness isn't something you earn, my son," I whispered. "It's something you need to learn." He cried harder, holding Noah close, whispering promises only a broken man could make. Promises of change, of humility, of never letting pride steal his family again. For the first time in years, my home was filled with laughter. Not from wealth, but from love. But peace never stays for long. Not when life still has lessons to teach. A few days later, I began to feel strange, a constant weakness in my chest, a sharp pain whenever I tried to climb the stairs. Adam noticed. "Mom, you're not looking well. We should see a doctor." I smiled faintly. "I'm fine, dear. Old age is just catching up with me." But deep inside, I knew the truth. The years of work, the heartbreak, the sleepless nights. They had taken their toll. Still, I didn't want to worry him. He was finally healing, rebuilding his life, spending every moment with Noah. I couldn't steal that peace from him. One morning, while Adam was out applying for jobs and Noah played by my side, Olivia appeared at my door. I froze. She looked different. No makeup, no jewelry. Just a tired woman with tears in her eyes. "I came to say thank you," she said quietly. "You were right. I let greed ruin everything. I want to make things right. Can I see Noah?" I hesitated. "He's inside." She stepped in slowly, kneeling in front of her son. "Noah, sweetheart, Mommy's here." He looked at her, confused at first, then ran into her arms. "Mommy." Tears rolled down her face. She kissed his forehead again and again. I watched them, mother and child, and for a moment I saw myself and Adam years ago. Love always finds its way home, even if it takes the longest path. Olivia turned to me. "Mrs. Sterling, I've lost everything, but I want to help you. Let me take care of you, please." I smiled weakly. "You don't owe me anything, child. Just take care of your family." But before she could respond, my vision blurred. The room spun. The teacup slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. "Grandma!" Noah cried. "Mom!" Adam shouted as he rushed in, just returning from town. Everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. The room smelled of antiseptic and quiet worry. Adam sat beside me, holding my hand tightly. Olivia stood behind him, eyes red from crying. The doctor spoke softly. "Her heart is weak. She needs rest and constant care." Adam's voice trembled. "We'll do anything. Please, just save her." I smiled faintly, my voice soft but steady. "Don't cry, my boy. I've lived a full life. I've seen you return. I've seen your son smile again. What more could a mother ask for?" Tears streamed down Adam's face. "Don't say that, Mom. Please. You're all we have left." Olivia stepped closer, holding my hand too. "You gave me back my family. Let me give you something too. My word that I'll never let pride destroy us again." I looked at both of them, their fingers entwined with mine. In that moment, I felt peace. Not because I was safe, but because they were. The next morning, I sat by the window of my hospital room, watching the sunrise paint the sky golden. Noah climbed into my lap, holding a tiny paper heart he'd made. "It's for you, Grandma," he said proudly. I held it close to my chest and whispered, "You've given me the best medicine in the world." And as I looked at my son and his wife standing side by side, I realized, sometimes pain is not a punishment, it's a passage, a road that leads broken souls back home. The night after my discharge was quiet, too quiet. The house smelled of chamomile and the soft warmth of a family, finally whole again. Adam tucked me into bed as if I were the child now. "Mom," he said softly, "I'll never let you go through pain alone again." I smiled, brushing his hand. "You already made it right, my boy. Don't live in the shadow of guilt. Live in the light of love." He nodded, his eyes shimmering. Olivia stood beside him, holding Noah close, a gentle peace in her eyes that I'd never seen before. For the first time in years, there was no anger, no pride, no distance, only love filling the cracks we once ignored. That night, I couldn't sleep. The moonlight spread across the floor like silver silk. I sat up slowly, reached for my diary, and began to write my final words. If love is a seed, pride is the storm that tries to uproot it. But even the strongest storm ends, and what remains is the soil where forgiveness grows. When I finished, I looked at a small photo of Adam as a child, smiling, missing his front tooth, and I whispered, You found your way back to me, my son. That's all a mother ever needs. I closed my eyes. The night breeze kissed my cheeks. My heart slowed. Steady, calm, ready. The next morning, Noah was the first to find me. "Grandma, wake up. The sun's here." But I didn't wake. I was smiling, peaceful, still, with the paper heart he'd made pressed gently in my hand. When Adam entered, his voice broke. "Mom." He knelt beside my bed, tears falling on my blanket. Olivia wrapped her arms around him, crying softly. In my stillness, I had left them something no wealth could ever give: unity. Weeks later, they visited my grave under a maple tree. Noah placed fresh flowers and whispered, "I love you, Grandma." Adam looked up at the sky. "I understand now, Mom. The real luxury wasn't the mansion. It was you." Olivia added quietly, "Your forgiveness taught me more than my wealth ever did." And there, among the rustling leaves, they promised to live as I had always wished. Not rich in gold, but rich in heart. Years later, Adam and Olivia opened a small home for the elderly. On the entrance wall hung a quote in my handwriting: "No mansion is grander than a heart that forgives." Every visitor who read it smiled, feeling warmth without knowing why. Because love never dies. It simply moves into the hearts it once healed.